one day his friend comes up to me and says, your roommate said he was going to do this, go to this bank and walk in and, rob it basically. And he goes, but if he backs out, will you do it?
Bond, James Bond. If you're familiar with GoldenEye, it's probably what you think of, but there's a new GoldenEye tonight.
Note the big gold-rimmed glasses, hence the nickname.
I wasn't looking to get rich off of the banks. I was just looking to not get sick.
He's pretty straightforward. Heads for the teller, demands cash, and then takes off.
And so, but some crazy things started happening. Like, I'm like, dude, I feel like we're being followed. It's like, no.
Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I'm going to be doing an interview with Scott Martinez. Scott is a former heroin addict and bank robber. He's got an interesting story that I think you guys will find fascinating. Scott, what's going on? Talk to me. We've gone back and forth on text. We talked a little bit. Tell me what's going on. How did this whole life story how did this start?
I was born in Northern California, and the most I could really remember was just my mom and me all the time. I didn't really know my real father, and if anybody knows him out there, it'd be great. But he was a biker, I guess, and we always lived in this kind of chaos environment. And I was born Scott Green, so I've had several through different marriages, different names, and that kind of thing. I used to see my mom go through some physical abuse, and I was gaslighted at a young age and those kind of things. And so I just never felt like I fit in anywhere, And so growing up, probably the first crime I committed was stealing my mom's cigarettes and going behind the A&W to smoke a few when I was like 6 years old. And then I went to a private school, and I was a chatty, popular kid, but always doing stupid things, and like grabbing the phone and payphone and dialing 0 and yelling fire when I was in first grade, and all the fire trucks show up and all kinds of crazy things. And as life progressed, I just, that sense of soullessness kind of, where you just feel like you're this person in life, but you're not there. Like there is no real reality. Like they would tell me we're going to Magic Mountain when I was a kid and bringing 3 of my friends, and I would just sit there very stoic and no smile, no emotion. And so somewhere around 12, 13, I started running away from home and those kind of things. And I ended up robbing my next door neighbor's house with some friends. Basketball went over the...
Go ahead. Why were you running away from home? I mean, are you saying it was it abusive?
No, my mom... Yeah. No, my mom's a great person. Like she always treated me well. She's a phenomenal person now. She does a lot of good for other people. And my stepfather now, Tony, he's a great man too. Like there was never really any issues with them. It's just I had progressed to the point where I couldn't attach to people. Like there was just this blockage of emotion in me, Right. And so I don't know, that might be a common theme, with that kind of sense of feeling lost at an age. And I was an only child and spent a lot of time with my grandparents and around adults. And then my mom couldn't have any more children after me, so they decided to take on foster children. And that just kind of threw me for a big loop, because here we were finally in a stable relationship with my stepfather and her, and they're doing great. And he's taking care of her the way, a husband should. And these new kids come in, and I just, I don't know, just, that's always been my fighter, and I've always just been the fighter instead of the fighter.
Right.
And so most of my time, like 13, 14, like one time I ran away, and I came home, I'd been drinking, I came home, and my mom's asleep in my bed as I'm trying to climb through the window to get back into the house. I'm like, shit, I didn't want to get in trouble. So I go down to my friends, and I take his bike, and I remember my girlfriend at the time is all the way up in Santa Barbara, and I lived in Redondo Beach. So it's about 180 miles, something like that. So I stole this little BMX bike, and I'm like, I'm going to go see this girl. She's all the way up at Santa Barbara with her mom. And I'm like in 7th, 8th grade. And I'm just pedaling away through Malibu and the hills and stop at the store and grab some nuts and come back out. And man, it took like 2 days. Slept on the beach in Oxnard and ended up going to Santa's Village in Santa Barbara. And I get there and then I see her with her mom as they're getting in the car to head back. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just had to come here and see you. I had, in high school, I started drinking and smoking a little weed and doing a little coke. And I was about 15. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. Back in those days in the 80s, you could buy an 8-ball for $300, when it was $100 a gram. Like, it doesn't make sense to spend all that when I could just sell the $300 worth and get my little gram for free. And of course, the friends all take advantage, don't pay. And I ran away, and the Armenians came, threw bricks through my window and my parents' house. And so it just got real chaotic. And so I had robbed the neighbor. I saw their window cracked. And so we did that. And I was living in this abandoned house. We pawned the things off, and I'm living in this abandoned house. And I remember my ex-girlfriend had a code on their alarm. And I'm like, I think I'll go in there and, just take a little bit and get out. Well, I found this big box of credit cards back in the day, like JCPenney's and whatever. So this guy I was staying with at this abandoned house, I'm like, dude, let's get some tickets and we'll go to Miami. And then we're going to do this right. I'm 16, so we're going to do this right. Miami Vice it. And so we ended up getting the tickets, and I'm sitting at LAX, and it's about 20, 30 minutes before they start boarding. He and I are sitting at LAX, and 2 police officers come up, and they're like, Scott? I'm like, yes. He's like, we need you to come with us. And so I'm like, what? And the other guy is, what? And so
How did they know you were there?
we go back, and well, I found out later they got an anonymous tip that I had stolen some credit cards and I bought a plane ticket. So they got an anonymous tip, and I'm sitting in the thing in there, and they're like, okay, so how did you get the tickets? Do you know these people? Well, we have to verify with them. And I just said, look, I took the credit cards. I bought the ticket. This guy over here has no idea what's going on other than we're going to Miami. He was 18 already. So, and, I'm responsible. So I ended up going through the process there. I spent probably about 8-9 months at Central Juvenile Hall, which is just completely chaotic, and I had this Judge Dorn, and everybody's like, oh man, if you get Judge Dorn, you're screwed. And so I ended up going to, I ended up going to this place called Kirby, which was like a closed placement. So you're with other kids and you finish your high school, and you get counseling and those kind of things. Your parents kind of come on the weekend and that kind of stuff. But I was there about 6 months. And so right when I turned 18, so about 1.5 years total. And then when I turned 18, right after that, I was released. So,
Okay.
but I had credit card fraud. I had breaking and entering on 2 places. I probably had 5 or 6 felonies all listed in that whole
Before
mess, of everything before I'm 18. So, but I got out after I'm 18. And so I think that was around September or so. And I had a friend, he had just gotten out of the Navy, and I'm thinking like, I'm going to enlist in the Navy, because every time you see the Navy guys, they're always partying. They're always hanging out, having a good time in the bars with the girls, so I'm going to join the Navy. And I go down to the recruiter and talk to him, and he does a few things. And he's like, well, Mr. Martinez, I'm sorry, but we can't take you. You have all these charges. I'm like, oh shit. I go, but I was a juvenile. He goes, it doesn't matter. It's pulling up in the system. So we called the public defender who had represented me, and he's now in private practice at this time. And so we get a court date and go in front of the judge. I tell him what I'm trying to do. And good old Judge Dorn, he goes, Ms. Martinez, I think this is a good thing for you. You want to serve your country. Slams it down. He says, all those charges are dismissed. Just completely dismissed, as if I had never been found guilty.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was just, he did me such a huge solid, And we go back to the recruiter, and I'm in there, and he's like, were you just in here? He goes, I can't take you. I go, look it up. And so he punches in. He's like, well, Mr. Martinez, welcome. Come on. So I take the ASVAB, and I scored pretty high on it. And it's the test for the military. I couldn't do was nuclear. Like, thank God. And but they wanted me. I signed up to be a cryptological technician with like the highest clearance, thinking you could ever get. I was going to decode secret messages and work on the machines and sitting in some little room with two other people in some NSA building.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'm the worst one you ever want. And so I'm in I went in the Navy, and boot camp was very horrible. Had some bad experiences in the Navy, but they I'm going there and they're interviewing me to go to this CT school, and my high school diploma says graduated from Los Angeles Department of Probation. So it's like, well, why did you graduate from there? I ran away a few times. So that never ended up happening out. So I ended up doing some other things in the Navy and just drinking my whole way through. And I went from E1 to E2 to E3 to E2 to E3 to E2, E3, E4. Yeah. In about 5 years, yeah.
Are these for charges or for being written up or?
Yeah. Not criminal charges. No, I went to Captain's Mast twice. So I was in Plattsburgh, New York, and we're walking along, and I find this money order on the ground for $100. No name written out on it, no nothing, and the receipt part's on the back, the carbon and everything. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna write it. I was married. I got married at 19. I can talk about that after, but I was married, and so I just write my wife's name on there to me and go in and cash it. Well, it turns out it was either the commander or the executive commander of the whole entire base there in Plattsburgh, New York. His wife had dropped it. So they were able to search it, and next thing you know, I'm getting called in, and so I'm sure in a legal world I did nothing wrong, but when you're supposed to be of the highest ethical standards,
You tell them
I was definitely
that my wife wrote me a bad money order. You need to talk to my wife.
Yeah. I wish I was that kind of person, like just cut out. Just like even when I was at the airport, and I'm just like, I automatically have always taken the rap. Like with houses that we broke into, there were 3 other ones of us that were in there. Like I just always just ate it. I'm figured I'm caught. I'm already busted, so why throw other people into the mix? But I was upset about that, and I had to do base restriction and horrible. Yeah. So, and then another time we were flying in Tampa, and we landed, and so we have 12 hours before your next flight where you have to stay sober. So we had to do a lot of repairs on the plane and a lot of communications equipment and those kind of things. And so we go, and I'm only 18, 19 at the time. And so I think I heard when you said on one of your interviews, you talked about you went into the bank and threw lamination over an ID to change something. Well, we could do that with our military ID. I'd outline a number with tape, and then I put another piece of tape over and rip it off, and the transparency of that number would stick on the sticky part of the tape. And then I laid it over my 1969. And so I got so shit-faced that night, and I'm swimming in the wrong hotel pool at a Holiday Inn naked, and the guys come along, and I'm swimming naked in the hotel Holiday Inn, and it's the wrong Holiday Inn, and of course there's a female cop, telling me to get out of the pool, and I was air crew, so I could tread water for a good hour, at that point. I'm like, I'm going to be here all night. I can go all night. And I saw a break and I thought I could run for it naked and hopped a big juniper tree over the 8-foot cinder block before they caught me. And I made the jump to the tree and just slid down. And that was about it. So we're in the back of the police car and the cop's like, so what's your name? And I'm like, Martinez, blah, 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 blah. Just give him my social security number, E3, United States Navy. That's it. Like I'm a prisoner of war or something, just stupid. And they pull in the, they park the police car always and they go to the locker and put in their guns. Well, they took me out before one of them had put in their weapon and he starts to take it out. And I grab for the weapon. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like half blacked out. I grab for the weapon. They pull me back and
What's going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope you guys are all having a great day. If you're seeing and hearing this right now, that means you're watching Matt Cox on Inside True Crime. At the end of Matt's video, there will be a link in the description where you can book a free consultation with yours truly, RDAP Dan, where we can discuss things that could potentially mitigate your circumstances to receive the best possible outcome at sentencing or even after you started your prison sentence. Prior to sentencing, we can focus on things like your personal narrative, your character reference letters, prepping you properly for the pre-sentence interview, which is going to determine a lot of what type of sentence you receive. If you've already been sentenced, we can also focus on the residential drug abuse program, how you can knock off 1 year off of your sentence. Also, we have the First Step Act where you can earn FSA credits while serving your sentence. For every 30 days that you program through the FSA, you can actually knock an additional 15 days off per month. These are huge benefits, and the only way you're going to find out more is by clicking on the link, booking your free consultation today. All right, guys, see you soon at the end of the video. Peace. I'm out of here. Back to you, Matt.
it took me about 8 hours or so to wake up in the cell because we were drinking B-52s and Bloody Marys and so much to get it all in before our 12-hour window closed. And that's pretty serious, like that kind of thing could have put me away for who knows how long, at that point. And so I missed my flight, which was pretty bad because we were a specialty crew. So to miss my flight was pretty horrific in the Navy's eyes. And so, but they came and they got me out, and no charges pressed on me or nothing. And I went in front of the captain again, and that was pretty much it. I lost my clearance, lost my wings, lost everything.
So you were, the last we talked, you had caught naked in the pool, missed your flight, back in front
Missed my flight.
back
Yeah,
in front of
grabbed the top gun in the holding area, and yeah,
You're
nuts. I don't know what I was going back in front of the captain. Yeah, because I was Navy. So it was the second time around. I had they were familiar with me when I first checked into the base because I was there for training at the same base and the same unit I was in. And so I was in training. I was dating this girl out in town, and she had given me a calling card to call her when I was out in California because I was stationed in Maryland. And so I met another girl. And then so when I left California, I was calling this girl with that calling card. And, this is back in the 80s. So, it was $1 a minute on AT&T and, so.
What a racket.
Yeah.
What a racket they had.
I was sitting on an airplane flying to boot camp in Orlando, and this guy's got his laptop open, and I said, "So what are you doing? What do you do?" And he says, "Well, I'm a finance manager," and he goes, "I'm just reviewing some stock things." I go, "You got any good picks?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "MCI." So MCI had started as multi-level marketing through Amway, and then they went. AT&T merged with AT&T in the long distance, and they went phenomenally huge. Like if I had put $1,000 into MCI back then, I'd be, not sitting here right now. So, yeah.
So you were back at the base.
Back at the base, restriction. I had to stay on base, so my wife's home alone, and they sent me through this alcohol class, and they said, "Well, you're just an abuser and not an alcoholic, but just a binger, So I did this little thing, and But I ended up getting out at E4, which I was the same rank as everybody that I was in training with that didn't get busted twice. I managed to pass the test the first time around, so it was I felt good about that, and I ended up getting an honorable discharge. So I was just, so
Well, you got for that issue, they asked you to leave, or you just
no, I finished out my time there. I finished out my time in the service, and so, but I couldn't fly anymore. I couldn't do what our unit was doing and those kind of things anymore. So I had lost my clearance, everything. So I pretty much everywhere and everybody that I knew, I was isolated from because I, without the clearance, I just couldn't be there.
right. Okay.
So, yeah. So I got out of the service in 94, and I grew up in California, originally Northern California. I was born in the hospital of my last name, Martinez, California. And, but so we're living in Southern California now, and got my real estate license. My parents sold real estate. I was familiar with that because my dad would give me a stack of flyers like this and pay me 25 cents an hour, and I'd put a few on the doors and throw the rest in the dumpster and come home and till trash day. And then all the flyers went out all over the floor, all over the ground in the street, and people are calling them, "Mr. Martinez, get your flyers off my lawn."
Oh.
And, yeah. If I've done it wrong, I've been caught for it. I don't know. Do you know people like that just whatever they do, they end up getting caught? Like the dumbest things that just.
Yeah, I definitely.
Like you'd think I would learn by now, but my second ex-wife said I suffered from hot stove syndrome, that every time I touch the hot stove and burn myself, I just believe the next time it's not going to be hot. And
Right.
that seems to be somewhat of the truth. But so I was married and tried doing the real estate. Those things didn't really work out well. We traveled quite a bit, California, Oregon. I was real estate licensed in California, Oregon, and had my license in Maryland when I was there stationed there. But the market in that time was just horrible. They were laying off engineers and everything. So I ended up moving out to Cleveland, Ohio, and lived there for a while. Got divorced, and just drinking constantly.
Excuse me.
And odd jobs here and there. And I had a lot of PTSD from childhood and from the service. So it's difficult for me to, I get brilliant ideas, but to follow through on them is tough.
Yeah.
To stay with it, And
Everybody has what was that book, Syrup or something? It's like everybody has 3 multi-million-dollar ideas in their lifetime.
yeah,
Yeah. But it's the following through that's the hardest part.
yeah. I think my favorite that I came up with is endangered species animal crackers. I thought you can't hunt them, but you can eat them.
Right.
I thought that would be great. Get Sierra Club to come and sponsor, the spotted owl and talk about it a little bit. And then you could have the spotted owl and dip in some peanut butter and chew away.
You got to make that phone call to the animal cracker people.
I looked it up a couple years ago and someone's doing it now. So,
Oh man.
yeah.
And you could partner with National Geographic. You could, there's all kinds.
Yeah, the zoos, they could sell them at the zoos, I thought it would just be great.
You're giving a portion of you say, we're giving a portion of the profit, very small portion, to whatever.
Yeah, the Sierra Club or Greenpeace or yeah. Have little clubs and baby seals there as an animal cracker, and you can just eat them away. Yeah. So I got divorced in Cleveland, and then living there for a while, and got remarried again. And I was just desperate, clinging on to anything. I was living on my own, barely paying rent, and I lived in this little artsy neighborhood where people would come. It was like Michael Simon's first restaurant there. I don't know if you know him. He's on a show called The Chew. But he has a restaurant there called Lola's, and he got his start there. And so, but surrounded by it is all projects, so people come in on the weekends and go to the art galleries and eat at the restaurants, and we call them tourists, and I used to love to go there in the beginning and watch people watch the locals. And then after a few years, you realize you're the one being people watched, but because you're the one being stupid in the corner and doing whatever. And I had gotten pulled over a few times for drinking and wrecked a few cars, and never got any kind of trouble with alcohol, no DUIs, nothing like that. And my second wife worked for the Department of Justice. And so I got pulled over one time doing 95 on the freeway in a 60, and went. And so we're on the way back to the police station. And I said, so what's the bond on this? And he goes, well, it's $100. I'm like, my ATM is right by the police station. Can you just take me through? And he took me through. I pulled out my $100, and he like unreleased the cup, and I did the ATM. So I'm in the back seat at the ATM, and I go there, I bond myself out, and
you gave it to him and said, let's just cut the whole thing. Can I just give you the money and you'll turn it in?
Can you just let me out now? And my house is right over here. I swear I'll show up to court. And so I got a good attorney, and I ended up getting what's called a physical control. I don't know if they have that in Florida. So basically, I was in physical control of the vehicle, but not driving, but doing 95 reckless driving on the freeway. So I didn't get a DUI at all. So and I've been fortunate that way, like my whole life, like the Judge Dorn incident. And when I was in Cleveland, I would meet some people, and like, if anybody talked crap to me or whatever, and we're about to go outside and have a fight, they just like, no, we got this. And so it's kind of a pattern in my life. I don't know, like felt like there's always something there looking out for me in some way, like grabbing the cop's gun and not getting, 5 years for that. And because one time we're playing pool, and this guy comes up and he's talking crap, and I start to walk outside. We're gonna go outside, and this other guy's like, boots. He says, no, we got this. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna come with you. He's like, no, you don't want to come out here. And so about a half hour later, you hear the ambulances coming, and they beat the shit out of that guy. But like, I've never had to do anything like that. Like, I've probably been in 2 fights my whole life, and that's including prison, which is crazy. So I left Cleveland and drinking real bad, and went on a driving hiatus, and ended up in Las Vegas. I had a little money from schooling I was going to get for the VA, Veterans Administration. And so I ended up in Vegas. I was heading back to Ohio, but I got as far as Vegas, and just lost it all there. And I'm homeless at this point. And I come out to Phoenix from Vegas, and I met a girl I knew her back from Ohio, and she was super to me and everything. When I got out there, I was just a wreck, and I get out to Phoenix, and I'm homeless. And I don't know if you've ever seen the homeless situation out there. They got an area where it's just tent city, and they would lock you up in this area at night because they have like a shelter, but the shelter was always overfilled with people. But if you stayed there, you could get meals, and the VA system was there inside the center, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I started talking to some people, and the VA gave me my own apartment because I was homeless, and my record, my discharge anyway with the military, being honorably discharged. And they gave me my own apartment, and my neighbor, I'd see him, and he'd be kind of nodded out and happy or whatever. And I asked somebody, and they said he shot heroin. And I said, like, I want to do that, and man, that first time, Matthew, it's like a calm came over me, that all of those feelings that I had, or lack of feelings inside of me, just went away. It was for the first time I felt normal, if that makes any kind of sense. And but the problem with that is after 3-4 more hours, you're not feeling so normal anymore. But like we talked about, like the best thing for my alcoholism was heroin because it cured it like that. That first shot, I didn't touch a drink. Automatically, not the next day, I could open up a can of beer and it'd sit on my table till it was stale, and just no desire to drink or anything. And so I was managing that way, holding signs and asking for money, and I was never one to like steal from people. Like I couldn't go rob a beauty salon or something like that. Or if somebody came to me and wanted something, I would get it for them and bring it back and not take from that. I'd expect them to do the right thing. So I, like I said, when I was holding the signs, all the people with fancy cars would roll up. I'd just say homeless vet, please help. And all the fancy car people and most of them would roll up the windows and, very just, that face.
Yeah.
And the people that would give me money were, the people that looked like they didn't have any money. The Hispanic lady with 3 kids in the back seat would give me $20. And I just like, I can't do this. This is horrible. Like what, it makes you reflect on yourself. Like, what kind of person am I? Like you can tell this lady doesn't seem like she has that much money to feed her kids or anything, and here she's giving to me to support my drug habit. And I'd been pretty isolated from my parents, so I never asked them for money and that kind of thing. So I met a guy and he's staying in my apartment. He's a heroin addict also. So one day his friend comes up to me and says, "Hey man, your roommate said he was going to do this, go to this bank and walk in and, rob it basically." And he goes, "But if he backs out, will you do it?" And like, I'm thinking like, I'm sick. I need money. This could take care of me for a while. So I said, yeah. And of course the other guy backed out. So I'm like, well, shit, I guess I got to do it. And that's where it all started. That was there in Phoenix.
What'd you do? You wrote a note or?
Yeah. So I wrote a note and I had long hair. I'm kind of growing it long now, but I had long hair before that, about down to here. And so I cut my hair and I threw on the little Irish, golfer Irish hat. And I had a long sleeve shirt on and pants, but like I went and got the elastic, like grandma pants, And so underneath my long sleeve shirt was a short sleeve t-shirt. And underneath my pants were shorts. And I stashed a backpack in this underground garage. And so I went into the bank and I wrote a note. I put it on the counter and he's just looking at me and I see his hand go like this. I'm like, "Don't you press that fucking button. Don't you press that fucking button." And he goes like this. Just right in my face, like, there you go. Stick it, press the button. And I was so nervous. Like it's just pure adrenaline at that time because I got the discovery back and I never even put the glasses down over my face. I'm staring at the camera like, when they get the discovery. And so
You didn't get any money.
no, I got about $3,000. He gave me the money
And hit the button.
And so he gave me the money. And so I went down under the garage, did the little switcheroo, threw the stuff in the backpack. And I had a little black bag like this and threw stuff in the backpack, walked through the parking garage, came up an elevator that was on another side and took another walkway and up another elevator to street level and then went across. And then I got on the light rail there in Phoenix. And as I'm coming across, the police are pulling into the bank and I'm just like, and so that took care of, that was the first. That was a U.S. bank there on Central. And no weapon or nothing. I was very polite in my notes. I said, like, "Good morning." I think the first one I put, this is a burglary. Not a robbery. This is a burglary, said a few things and like, "Thank you," and gave him the note. And so, but I think I've watched a few of the videos, like you don't really get very much when you go in and do the teller, like with a note or unless you're doing some giant takeover.
Yeah.
And,
Unless you go into the cash, and if you go into a lot of these guys will tell you, if you go into the cash drawer, like sometimes they'll have a main drawer with 10,
Yeah.
9,000, but usually those
Yeah.
have triggers and all kinds of problems.
I got one of those. Like my third bank, yeah, because I got like 10, 11 grand from that. I hit the head teller, and so she had the big cash drawer. And yeah, so I did the first one, and then it was about 2-3 weeks. And then, of course, when you have money like that, you're going crazy with dope. I mean, I wasn't buying new things, fancy things, or anything like that. And so now I'm supporting 2 other people's habit. You know, everybody's your friend when you have when you got the fix.
Right.
And so then I went and trying to think which was next. So I did this bank that's the one with the head teller way on the north side of town, and I had a driver for that, and so, but he didn't know what was going on. I just said, look, you're gonna go here and you're gonna park right here, and I'll be back in a few minutes. And then I got back in the car and I'm like, go. And so I got the main teller in that one, and so he figured out what was going on, you know. So obviously now one person knows, and then my roommates know, and you know that's never good. And so by the time I did another one right next to the first one on Central, and they had one of those machines where almost like a printer machine, but it's a little small ATM machine. And so I go in there and she gives me $1,000. I'm like, what the fuck is this? She didn't even open a drawer, nothing. She goes, I have to print it from the machine unless I go back into the vault, and that's going to take some time. And she goes, if you want to wait 5 minutes, I can print out another 1,000, kind of like a drop drawer at
Right.
you know, like Circle K or 7-Eleven, something like that. They have those drop drawers, and so I'm like, so that was like $1,000 out of that. It threw off my average, you know. But but after that second one, we got robbed. Because my roommate was real sloppy. He would get all Xanaxed out and have these periods of heroin, Xanax, 3-day blackouts. And so he had people come into our house and late at night because he was selling. And we got robbed, and he's getting pistol whipped, and I jump and come trying to do a Superman and ran right into a fist. And so I had about $4 grand in those, you know, those Russian maternity dolls, like the one inside the other, inside the other, inside the other. So I'd rolled all the cash and put it in that. It was on my dresser, and I think the guy knew I had money. I think it was a setup. Like someone told him I had money or something, because he was going through the whole house. He's looking under the mattress, unless he was just looking for dope money, but we weren't those kind of dealer people, you know? And he picks that thing up and he puts it down. He moves it over, and he couldn't find anything, you know? So he just stole my phone and my TV, but it's, you know, I'm lucky we didn't get shot, because the guy was getting pissed. My buddy was getting pistol whipped, and I grabbed the guy with the knife, and just crazy things, you know. But that's what happens when you're living that life, you know. And so I did the third one, and then they started putting me on the news.
Oh, those bastards.
Those bastards, yeah. Do you have the clip? I don't know if you have the clip or not. Did I send it to you? No, the YouTube clip?
I don't think so. Yeah, send me send it to me for sure.
Yeah. So they started putting me on the news, and I come home and my roommate's telling, dude, you were just on the news. I'm like, oh shit. And so I did one more bank after that. And then I decided, you know what, this is it. I bought a Lincoln. Like this is 2016. So I bought a 2004 Lincoln limo edition, special edition, windows tinted. And I'm like, you know, this is cool. I got money now. I'm driving my dealer around. I'm getting hooked up. You know, like every day. I don't have to worry about money to do my habit, you know, because I wasn't looking to get rich off of the banks. I was just looking to not get sick.
Right.
And so, like, I'm hooked up. I'm driving my dealer around, making deliveries for him, going here, going there, and so, but some crazy things started happening. Like, I'm like, dude, I feel like we're being followed. He's like, no, and you know, he's selling meth, so everybody on meth, huh?
Well, who would follow us?
Yeah, right.
You've only robbed 3 banks.
Right. And I'm driving around with him with, a couple ounces of heroin and meth and then shotgun in the back. And like, who would follow us? Look at all heroin out driving the Lincoln. But my excuse was like, they have what's called livery service in Arizona. So my justification for it, if I ever got pulled over, I had nothing in the front. It was all in the back, and I don't know what he brought in the car. It's, wasn't me.
Right.
And so, so I just figured that was a safe way to go about it. I was like, man, I feel like I'm being followed. And this was about September 2016. And like we'd park somewhere, and this van would come around to the side, like a little minivan, but it would be like a lady with her 2 kids, right? And so they followed us all the way to this place, and then they parked there. I'm like, what's up? So I start walking, and they just tires peel and take off. But it's like this Somalian lady with 2 kids in the car. And so I'm starting to get more paranoid.
But it's definitely not the police.
No, that was definitely not the police, but we're being followed. And so I'm like, what? So one time on the freeway, I feel like, I'm like, man, this is crazy. So I'm on the main freeway there in Phoenix, and everybody's going, anybody knows Phoenix, they're doing 80 if they're doing anything. And I slow down to like 40 miles an hour on the freeway in the center lane. And the 2 cars that I thought were following me wouldn't pass me. And I'm like, this is odd. This is really odd. And there's a big SUV, and I don't know what the person was driving it. So then I take off and I'm doing 95, and the guy's right on my tail. And then a police car comes, flashing his lights, and I think he's pulling me over. And then he gets in front of the car and me, and they pull him over. And I'm like, this is odd. Like, what? I don't understand this, And so that went on for about 3 months, and later to come and find out they had a GPS on my car. So I don't know if they have some kind of, they take their CIs to follow people when they're doing this, but I don't know. It was just, or maybe he made some bad deals. My buddy made some bad deals and they were following us. I don't know, but odd things were happening though. Like I had a Garmin that you would put a cell phone chip into for location.
Right.
And so, but I never used it. It was in my drawer. So I come home one day and I had this girl living with me. She was pregnant, not my kid, but, and so I come and I get sitting out on the couch, and then I pull out the chip, the SIM card that was in it, and it was a different SIM card.
Okay.
And so, yeah, just odd. I don't know, just really strange things. So, come to find out, I had several people, confidential informants on my case. So, I don't know how many people told, the FBI what. And so I don't know, odd things. Maybe they're trying to keep track of me. My Bluetooth, I had a Sony Bluetooth speaker that I'd come home and it would be on and connected to some other phone or some other Bluetooth. And they were friends. This girl staying with me was friends with the neighbor next door. So I don't know if the FBI was over there listening to me or trying on the speaker. I don't know. I don't know what kind of tactics they do, but it was just started getting very insane. And then almost 90 days after they put the warrant on for the GPS on my car, which I found this out later, but they came and raided me, and I had bars on my windows. The screen door was a barred screen door, and bars on the windows, and it was right when the sun comes up. That's when they get you. Right when the sun comes up, and I wake up, I'm sick, I can't see straight, and I just wanted to open the door. Like, I'll be right there. Oh, the fucking door right now. I'm like, hold on, I gotta get some clothes. I'll be right there. And I had dope all in the house, and I'm sick because I overslept, and I'm banging. I put on shorts, and I'm like trying to wipe the the powdery stuff off the counter, and I had a gram of dope, and I couldn't, had no time to do it. I couldn't smoke it or shoot it, so I put it in the only other place I could get away with hiding it for a while, and so they came, and they had that bar that comes through this long bar trying to pull down the blinds to see me, and I come out with the pants on and shirt and shoes, no socks, and they put me on the ground and cuffed me, and the girl that was with me, she was there, and they just let her go. Just let her go. So I think there was quite a few things going on there, but people keeping an eye on me to make sure I wasn't running off or that kind of thing. So, but the only thing I like about all of this is they reference me to James Bond in the in the news thing, and they call me the GoldenEye Bandit because I wear these silver rim glasses. So the news thing, I'll send you the clip, and
you just like me an article.
I think I sent you the YouTube video too, in like one of the first texts, but I'll send it again.
Okay, maybe it was a link or something. I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's a link to it is ABC News there.
I did see it. It was okay. Yeah, it was a news clip of them talking about you, right?
Yeah, it's like James Bond. There's a new GoldenEye in town, and
right.
Yeah, so they did. Yeah, and they had me blasted, GoldenEye Bandit, all like they put it on that national syndicated news list all over the country and everything. So it was a matter of time before they got me, but I didn't really care. I didn't care so much. I'm just saying I didn't care so much that I got arrested. Like I was just done. Like I've just spent. Like at this point I'm just white.
Right.
You were gonna say?
I was gonna say. So what did they say when they grab you? They get you. They bring you in the little room. The FBI agents come in and sit down.
Yeah. So they take me to some building right across from the main Justice Center, Federal Justice Center there in Phoenix. And they're fingerprinting me, and they don't really tell me. They didn't say why I was being arrested, and I didn't ask, which is an obvious sign of guilt, right? Like, what are you doing here? And so he asked me a few questions, and then he was lawyered up. I said I want an attorney. He asked me about my cell phone number, and then he asked me if I had ever been in this part of town or something like that. And I just said, I think I should get an attorney. And I just lawyered up, and so they were like super nice to me, like, just completely nice. They're walking me over to the Federal Center. They let me have a cigarette, and they're like saying, don't worry, this, you'll get through this, Mr. Martinez, just, you'll be okay. And, by this time, the intro dose of, the heroin's kicking in. I'm kind of, and, they take me right over to the Justice Center, and I'm sitting in those, stainless steel benches, and I'm just falling over on all the people there that got caught crossing the border and everything else. I was just out of it. And I got arraigned that day and sent straight off to Florence, which is the big prison town. Basically, they have state there. They have the core civic for the feds. I think they have if you're like a probation violation person, you might have another little area there for federal. And
right.
Yeah, that started my whole prison experience. And
so, what happened? What did they offer you? I mean, did you say I'm going to trial? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, at what point did somebody come up and say, "Hey, this is why they arrested you. This is what you're looking"?
Well, I realized then it was for the banks. After that, like because in the that initial appearance before the judge, they said 4 counts of bank robbery, and so I had a public defender, and looking over the discovery and, seeing my picture like this up at the camera, like, and, I knew I was had, so I didn't fight my case, and it took a year to get through the whole process, not even trying to fight my case. Cause I figured, everybody, someone there has that big giant book that says,
the federal sentencing
beat the feds or something like that, or
no. Busted by the feds.
Busted by the feds. That's it. And it's like this big. And the 2 things I got out of it is one, they win 95 to 98% of their cases. And two, if you take it to the box, you're screwed and you lose, you're screwed. And so, and I had no one else on my case. Like, it wasn't like I could, I mean, I guess I could have snitched on the driver, but what good have that done? I mean, it's like, at this point I figured out, like, unless you're,
I was gonna say, and all you've done is hand people a note. Like, you didn't have a gun, so that would have been a problem.
no weapon. Yeah, no weapon at all. And my notes were nice and, polite. And
You didn't hand them a harshly worded. It was a harshly worded note. No,
it was like, thank you. It was basically like put the 100s, 50s, and 20s on the counter, remove the bands, spread them open, because I didn't want a GPS chip. No GPS, no die packs. Thank you. And then the first one I left a note. The other ones I realized I should take the note, because the first one I remember he pulled it back because they wanted to keep it as evidence for DNA and those kind of things. So the other ones I took the notes, but they had them, the shot down with the camera on them. So it took me. They kept delaying the final sentencing and that type of thing, and I'm just like, look, I don't want this to be a problem, but I had no prior criminal record on anything, like that charges for my kid, being in a juvenile never showed up. I had another incident when I was in Cleveland where my wife worked for a bank and we had split up, and we had two separate bank accounts. So I was depositing money here and withdrawing it over here and back and forth and back and forth. The next thing you know, you're about $6,000 overdrawn.
right.
And yeah, so I had 3 felony charges on that, and I ended up getting attempting to pass a bad check misdemeanor. Out of, paid the money back, released that day, no probation, attempting to pass a bad check misdemeanor, and that was it.
Right.
So they didn't do anything with that on my criminal history. And so I basically had nothing on my criminal history, but I was still a 38 on the list. Because I think bank robbery is like a 32 or 34, something like that. Just with or without a gun. The gun's just an enhancement. And then, but they counted each bank was another 1 point enhancement from the first. So I was looking at 5 to 6 years, I think, was my column, And so, but some things started happening there, like when I look back at my experience in prison, like, to me, prison saved my life. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I've always been kind of a spiritual person, not really a big religion person, but I've always researched other ways of thinking and following. And so when I was there at Florence, I'm watching this movie, Battleship. I think Chris Pine's in it or something like that. Yeah. And in the beginning, he was talking to him about, what is it? I'm not going to think of it. The book, The Odyssey. And, the old Greek book, The Odyssey, and the travels through everywhere and all the Greek mythology and all that. And I'm like, I want to read that book. I would love to read that book. And 2 days later, it comes on the book cart. Like, who gets Homer's Odyssey on the book cart?
Right.
I'm like, this is fucking cool. This is way cool. It is a sign. And so I'm thinking, like, this is like a complete synchronicity. Like, I knew about it, but I never experienced it before. I'm like, this is a complete synchronicity. And then I get Celestine prophecies come in on the book cart that's all about synchronicities and those kind of things in life, that everything leads you to the next thing. There's really not any coincidences, so to speak. And so I'm like, man, this is super cool. So now 2 things have happened. And I'm like, I want to keep on this pursuit. And so I'm like, I want to read something else. And this book came in called Scientific Christian. It was written back in like 1870s. And it's a very theosophy kind of book, the whole manifestation, but from a very God-centered kind of way. And so I read through that and then I found another one. When I was finished with that book, it'd be like the next time the book cart comes that week, there was one, it was about this thick, and it's called The Power of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And it just blew me away. The whole process of changing your thinking, and that what you think about, you bring about. Like I've been through some cognitive behavioral therapy kind of things, where you create, you create your core and what are your values and those kind of things. But that your thoughts become words, your thoughts become words, and then they become actions. And I started to really develop that sense. And so by the time I'm getting ready to finally go for my sentencing, my attorney asked me, he's like, the FBI really want to talk to you. I'm like, what? I could have, I'm getting 6 years. I go talk to the FBI. I got nothing to tell them. And what am I going to do? At the worst case, I get 1 year off, and then I go in and everybody knows I'm a snitch,
Right.
And so that was my thought process anyway. And so I'm like, no, I don't have anything to talk to them about. He goes, just talk to them. So they delayed my sentencing one more time. And I went in and I'm like, okay, what? He goes, well, first of all, is there any money left? Did you hide any money? Is there any money left? I'm like, no, I only got like 20 grand out of the 4 banks. So, and so I'm like, no. He's like, I go, what? He goes, how did you pick your banks? And so I explained to them that they used to have a web page, an FBI most wanted web page for bank robbers. And so you could look up on there all the banks, and you could sort it out by state and then by city. And then you could sort out by weapon or they got away, and it would read, and how long ago. So it was kind of like a sorting protocol for bank robberies.
Right.
In the area over given.
The best banks to rob paid.
That's what I used it for, because I'm like, well, this makes sense. They were robbed 3 months ago, 3 months ago. They went in without a weapon, and they got away with the undisclosed amount of cash. So that tells me there's no guard there, no security. They don't have door locks where they lock you in the bank and they all run in the back or anything like that. And so I did that. And then, so I explained that to them, like, interesting. And then I used Google Maps, like the first one, I already had a plan to get out walking, but the rest of them, I used Google Maps. Like I looked for banks by a little construction site or, those kind of things as I drive by, but places that the bank wasn't, there were obstacles around there, so they couldn't see where I came in from, and they couldn't see where I left when I went out. They didn't have any other photos of me other than just in the bank and leaving the bank. That's it. No photos of buildings around me or anything like that. So I shared that with them, but I was so nervous because you get those 513B, I don't know what it is, that basically says you cooperated.
Oh yeah. 5K1 or a Rule 30.
Yeah, that's it. 5K1. Yeah. And I'm like, this is going to give me one of those. And I'm like, and then everybody's going to think that I had someone else on my case, and then they're going to know. So they, when I was getting my sentencing, they paused the stenographer and they paused the recording of the court case for them to say I cooperated I was very cooperative with them and so forth. And I ended up getting 28 months.
Nice.
So I'd already done a year in the 28 months, and maybe I would have gotten that anyway. I don't know, but it just like everybody was so nice to me. Like I don't understand. Like even in prison, everybody was just so nice to me. Even in prison. Like, I think the harshest, I almost got in a fight with my cellie. Well, he almost whooped my ass over some little spat, but he's 6'4" Missouri boy, and he was working on that 400, squat, deadlift, and bench press. Yeah, big arms like this. And my room was, I'll go to that later. So I got 28 months, already did a year. And then you do the, everybody goes to Colorado, and then I ended up going to La Tuna in El Paso for, I only did like 9 months there, 9 months in La Tuna. I was in low, medium, just a real fucked up place.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, all the guards that can't make it in other places can't figure out how to get along with the guards or the inmates there. They go there. That's their shit place. And so you have it's just a messed up place. But yeah, I'm just smiling because I think about the first thing I remember. What the first thing someone said to me when I got to Florence was, "That's not our table, bro." There was only two people in they're pods, right? So they're like these triangle pods, and you got those stainless steel tables with 4 stools around, and then you got the 4 TVs, and there was only two white guys sitting at a table. And so I go and I sit at this table over here. He's like, "That's not our table, bro." Like I wasn't sitting at the white table.
Right.
So yeah. Interesting. Yeah. You meet some characters, man. It's just, Florence was crazy. I was watching one of your interviews, and they were talking about like when you have somebody you think like, please don't, I can't stand that person. This person drives me nuts. That's exactly who you get put with. Like when you start thinking about it, even if it's in a negative way, that's what happens. And this guy, he was completely just tweaked, even though he was sober. He's walking around, and you know how they are, like, "Oh man, can you believe it? My wife slept with my 3 sons. Can you believe it? I love that bitch, but I love her." Just walking around pacing the whole time, like all night, all day. And then one time I said something, I'm like, "Well, dude, why do you even writing to her now anymore?" But then because I'm intruding on his thing there now, and he looks at me, "You think you want to get involved in this? You want to get involved in this?" Like, okay, no. No, you're right.
Yeah. There's a lot of mental,
good woman.
Issues going on in prison.
Yeah. Like I had never, other than a few drunk tanks and one night in a holding cell for the check thing, I'd never been, in any kind of facility or anything. So I had no prison sense. I had no idea what, like I used to joke with my friend, like, I'm like, because I would go to Walmart when I was drinking a lot and steal the big bottle. Like every 2 days, I steal a big bottle. I did that for about 6 months without getting caught. And then it's like, "Dude, you're going to go to jail." I'm like, "I don't go to jail." Like, because all these things that had happened to me in my whole life, I'd never.
Yeah, you getting away with it.
I kept getting away with it. Yeah. I mean, the juvie thing, yes. I mean, that was. But then I went to a placement. I didn't even do and then the charges got dismissed. I'm like, "I don't go to jail." Well, he was right. I just went straight to prison,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get halfway house?
Yeah, 3 months halfway house in Phoenix. I halfway house was I almost rather have done my 3 months still in La Tuna than to go to the halfway house because I don't know where you were in a camp. I couldn't go to a camp.
No, I was in a medium. I went to a medium for 3 years, then I went to a low for like 9 years, and then I did 7 months in a halfway house.
Oh wow!
I would have rather been in the prison, stayed in prison, but I needed a halfway house. I needed to get a job. I had to save money.
After 13 years, yeah, for sure.
There's no money, so but the problem, like you said, the problem is the halfway house. It's so overly intrusive. It's just much worse. It's a much worse place than the prison.
Yeah, and where I was in El Paso, they had, I wouldn't say that everybody sticks with their own race. You know how that is,
Right.
And then the ones that aren't allowed to sit at anybody's table, they all stick together,
Right.
But the people I came across in El Paso, many of them and they get funded by the federal prison system to keep taking hormones to complete their transition. And so because they're in that transition phase, any kind of violence against them is a hate crime, a federal hate crime. And so they're almost a protected class there in El Paso. And just everything blew me away.
Anywhere in the federal system.
Yeah. And I'm not saying there's wrong with people taking hormones or anything like that. I'm just saying it wasn't what I thought, I thought man, because they're just walking around and, everybody's got their hustle. So you could sell to them, but you couldn't buy from them, and what was your hustle?
I mean, mine, I taught the real estate class, and I wrote stories for people, but nobody. It's not like anybody paid me for the stories,
Yeah.
but spent my time writing stories. I spent my time doing the real estate class, and then people would send me money, from on the street, a little bit here, a little bit there, for the most part. But that's it. Like that's it. Like I didn't really go to I didn't really go to the commissary. Like I would get coffee and creamer for coffee. But I also taught the real estate class. So people would, if they wanted a certificate, if they didn't want to go to the class, then I said, great, give me like coffee and 2 creamers. So I always had tons of coffee and creamer. In worst case scenarios, my mom would send me money, but I also I optioned a couple of guys life rights to their stories. So that paid me. I also got a couple book deals. So that also paid me. I got some advances. So I had little chunks of money. Let's face it, you get a check for $3,500 in prison, you're going to be okay for a while.
Yeah.
And that's
I don't think a lot of people understand too. Like, I don't know, states the same way or not, but feds, you pretty much have to pay for everything. Like, if you want toothpaste, unless you want those little clears and the toothbrush that lasts like a day and a bar of soap, but everything else, like shampoo and everything else, you have to pay for. And my job paid me $15 a month there. So, that's like 200 bucks. What was that?
Yeah, I had one job that paid like $23 or $26. Did that for a while, and then I had another job that paid like $80 or $90 when I was a GED tutor. But for the most part, the jobs don't pay anything.
Yeah, the ones you had to have a lot of time to get the ones where they have the prisoners making the Homeland Security trucks, putting all the enhancements on. Unicorn, yeah, they got paid very well, but $14. My parents didn't even know where I was. They knew I got arrested, but they had no idea where it was. I didn't ask them for money, so I never had anything coming in on my books. You just can't survive on $14 a month, man. There's just no way. Not if you want to eat anything decent once in a while, because everybody's cooking food, and we didn't have microwaves. We had 204, which is water at 204 degrees, just under boiling. So
yeah.
No microwave. Yeah, no microwaves. But my cellie, he made a. What's that?
You could make coffee with it.
You can make coffee, or you could take something and put it in there and heat it up for a while, like wrap it in cellophane, like a trash bag, and heat it up.
Do people have stingers?
Yeah, stingers. But the cell, the way it was where I was at, is they had 2 parts to La Tuna. So they had. It looks like it was an old Catholic mission that got converted over. And so they built a new pod area, which is kind of like where it was in Florence with the different pods and regular cells. And then they had one area where it was 2 long hallways. And then you had gates at the end of each hallway, and then the CO's little area there and the main exit out, and a bathroom on the inside. But there were no doors on the rooms. So anybody just come walking by could peek in or whatever, and there were 4-man rooms. So same size rooms, but 4-man rooms. So you can imagine, you had about this much between the 2 bunks, and about maybe 4 feet to walk the bed, because you had 4 lockers in there. 2 top and bottom, and it gets pretty tight in there.
Yeah. I know.
Tensions get high for.
Yeah, people have to you want to change. Somebody has to walk out of the room just for you to have enough room to kind of move around just to put your pants on.
Yeah. And it's amazing how well everybody has their locker memorized. Like, if one little thing is moved, like, they know, like, someone's been in my locker. They know, like, the toothpaste is turned sideways or something. Like,
or the cops would come and search the lockers.
Yeah, they would search, and so we didn't have doors. So we weren't even allowed to have buckets in our room, like, because people would get stingers. They would make them out of like coils out of like vacuum machines, or and then so my cellie had a stinger. He used to make real cheesecakes, like with an actual yogurt kind of. He had a kicker he would make, and he would let the yeast grow into like real actual cheese and then drain it out. And
Oh, they're amazing.
you know,
You guys are amazing in there. They come
Yeah.
up with some amazing stuff.
like the creamer cheesecakes were all right. Everybody sold those, but my cellie, he had like real cheesecakes. So that was my house. So I took his leftover cheese and made like these brownie balls, and you sell like 10 of them for a tuna or something like that. But yeah. So Halfway House, yeah, I got a job right out of Halfway House. And I went to Halfway House. You have to get a job. So at this point, I'm feeling good. You know, like I remember when I first got to El Paso, my cellie looked at me and he said, and I'll never forget this. Like if he was out there somewhere, bro, thank you. He said, is this what you're going to do with the rest of your time here? Just lay around, just waste it away. He goes, you know what you do here is going to be exactly what you do when you get out of here. I was like, all right. So, you know, that kind of like started the process. You get up every day, you make your bed, you know, you get into that routine of starting to take care of yourself. And actually for the first time started to feel like a little self-respect and some goodness about myself, you know, like just, I've always been kind of this insecure person, you know, very chatty, but like when I'm done, then, you know, leave me alone. I'm all by myself and in my head.
Right.
And like I just felt like I was walking taller and feeling good about myself. And so when I got out of the Halfway House, before my probation officer even came, I already had a job. I was working at a Jackson's, and they love felons because they get a tax write-off. So I was changing oil and washing cars, you know, and send them through the car wash. And I did that for about a year and just got my life together. My credit was fine by then. So I got a car loan and had a car and started dating. I dated this girl for about 3 years and that went to crap, but you know, stayed clean and I just kept with the process of taking care of myself, you know, like I went and registered with the VA for some PTSD classes, and you know, there's a lot of help out there if one needs it and wants it. You know, I think you have to be flexible because nothing's going to be tailor-made to every specific person. But I had issues from the military and things like that, and you know, every time I turned, they were there for me. You know, like I went to federal probation court. Well, federal probation, but it was vet court for feds. And Phoenix was the first one to do that. They have it for state, like a lot of vet courts and state, but there's not many federal. And so for doing my 2 years of probation, they knocked off a year. I don't know if they do that in other programs, but you go there and the judge and everybody pledges allegiance to the flag, and you have the judge there, you have your probation officer, you have a VA representative, you have the district attorney that's there, and you have another person, and you have just people there that want to help you get on your feet. And so the judge is absolutely amazing, Judge Silver. And she starts off and she's basically like, so what do you need, Scott? Tell me how it's going. What can we do for you? Tell me what you need. And let's see if we can keep you going, you know? And so it was just my whole experience with everything in the system is just for what it was, you know, I mean, for being in prison and that kind of thing. Like to me, it was like going to a rehab that I just couldn't leave, you know?
Right.
Like I didn't have any problems with anybody. I never got in a fight. I never had to run away from a fight. You know what I mean? Like I just never had a problem, you know, like it was just the same way with probation, you know, and I'm just very grateful for that. Like I think a lot of people come out and they F the police and this and that, you know, everything I got arrested for, I did, you know. There wasn't one thing that I got nailed on me that I didn't deserve to have nailed on me, you know.
How did you end up in Mexico?
So I got out, my probation ended in November of 2020. So I got out in 2018, my probation in 2020. And I just started watching YouTubes, and I was like, you know, I have no money, basically, you know, no money. Everybody told me I needed to file a claim with the VA for my first disability. And so I started that process, and I just started watching YouTube, and like, they gave me a certain rating, and then eventually got upped. because I realize I guess I am a little nuts, but and so I was watching and I'm like, shit. So my girlfriend and I broke up, and I went on one last tear through Las Vegas, which I don't even want to get into that. That was horrible. But and I'm like, you know what? I guess I gotta go. Like, just be somewhere where I can be myself and nobody around me. And I went and I applied for a 1-day passport. I went down to the passport agency, and they told me no. They go, we can't give you a passport today. I'm like, what? And so they had never released me in this system from being off federal probation or anything like that. So they had to get an email back from DC or something. I'm like, I got my probation out, my probation officer's thing right here. I text them or whatever. And so I went back the next day. They gave me my passport, and I was gone the next day, and came down here. But I love it here, man. It's so calm. The area I'm at is like, there's no crime here.
Right.
Like, is in Mexico, there's not a lot of crime in Mexico anyway, like, except bad people doing things to bad people, like in that
Right.
sense. But here, there's, if you hear about a house getting broken into, like, that's odd. Like, it's considered the third or fourth safest city in the country, in the world, basically. Like, it's safer than Amsterdam, and I think only one other place, like maybe British Columbia, is on the other top 2 or 3. And the people here, the other night we went and I was having dinner, and I left a little change, a little thing with my cards and change, because you get all these pesos and everything here. And I left it on the table, and I forgot. And I come back like 20 minutes later, and it's sitting right there. All the money's in it. No one even touches it. No one even touches it to turn it in. They just leave it. I mean, it's just an honest, kind place, I don't get mail. I don't get telemarketing calls. I don't get nothing. Like, I just take my money, and I don't leave the house a lot. So I take my money and I go and I swim in the pool, which is in the area. I'm like a 750 square foot apartment, 2-bedroom, and I pay with utilities and everything like $450 a month.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing. You should come visit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I basically just go to the beach and hang out at the pool. My girlfriend, I still have moments where I just go and, like, I could disappear for a month just in my house, so she'll come and get me and take me shopping and, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love it. And so I think that one of the reasons I wanted to come and tell this, like, I don't think my story is so extravagant, or, I didn't do so many horrific things. I think, like, it'd make a great book or anything, or that kind of stuff. But I think there's a good message to be said that if I heard someone else say this too, that, I've started over so many times, Matthew. Like, I've gone from nothing, like, so many times in my life, to back up, to back down, to back up, and to back down, and then to come out of prison. And the girl I dated when I got out, like, before we went on the first date, I told her, I said, look, I robbed 4 banks. You have a 15-year-old daughter. We had talked on the phone a little bit. I said, but you have a 15-year-old daughter. You're going to invite me into your home. I think you should know this before I come into your house. You know what I mean? And meet your daughter, like, I mean, it just seems like the right thing to do. And, like, we talked, and she ended up beating my probation officer. I still chat with my probation officer now. Like, just the process I went through in Florence, and the process of changing the way you think and making it a part of who you are. Not just, it's easy to say, like, I hear these people on YouTube or wherever talking about, oh, just manifest $1,000, do this over here. And, if I think about wanting a car so much, like, I could say I manifested coming to Mexico because I put 3 years into thinking about it, into a plan to get here. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to do each little step along the way, but it became my focus. It became my purpose. And I never had a purpose before for anything, like, I think I heard you talk about it on one of your other interviews about having that purpose is the big motivator to keeping you moving in the right direction, and if my purpose is doing drugs, I'm going to go on that route. But if I keep another purpose,
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like I can.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, you can Basically, I think it's like you can withstand, anything if you have a purpose,
Right.
you become
There's
purpose-driven.
there's that book, that Purpose Driven Life, and then there's a book by Viktor Frankl. He was a Jewish guy in the concentration camps, and it's called The Man's Search for Meaning. And he just talks about making yourself almost to the point where you're transparent and everything is your purpose. Like if I want $1,000 from you, I mean, that's an ego-centered kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like if I pray to find $100 on the ground, I'm really praying for someone to lose $100 too, right? Like, I mean, that's a very kind of selfish motivation. But if I want to do something that can enlighten or help or motivate other people to, or just bring a smile to their face, and that's my purpose, then good things will come to me. You know what I mean? Because it's not an ego thing. It's a soul thing. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Feel like we've thoroughly investigated this matter.
Thank you. Ta-da! I'm grateful. That's what turned out of it. I'm grateful and in a good place, man. I'm very happy. I have some things I'm trying to do. There's a thing here that's legal in Mexico called ibogaine, and it's phenomenal results. And they take people, they go on a 3-day treatment. You can go in addicted to heroin right then. You don't go through withdrawals. If you're an alcoholic, you won't go through the DTs or anything like that. You come out and you might have a follow-up in 2-3 months and maybe 1 or 2 every couple of years, but completely kicks the habit. Completely. Alcohol, heroin. So I'm in the process of trying to work out some things for veterans to come down here to Mexico and just kind of have a calm way of living. And it's legal here in Mexico. It's not in the United States because there's no money in it, because it's made out of a natural source, kind of like kratom or so I'm hoping that works out, and
yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
The drug and alcohol companies can't, or the rehab companies can't figure out how to monetize it. They're not interested.
Yeah, there's no way to monetize it. Yeah, because you don't need to keep them there 30 days. Right. Like someone could come, and they have treatment centers here in Mexico already. Someone could come and spend 3 or 4 days here and go back not addicted and not have the cravings and not have the urges and find a sense of the wholeness. Like when I talked about just feeling like I had no soul, you find a sense of wholeness in you, and and it kind of takes away that need to medicate.
Yeah, that's not going to take that's not going to take root here.
No. And I just want to say one other thing real quick, like to anybody else that might see this or whatever, if you see this, and I know I destroyed a lot of lives in this process of getting here. I mean, I really did. My parents and other people I stole from and that kind of thing. I just, I'm very sorry. I apologize. It's been a long trip getting here. And so, thank you.
Well, yeah. I don't know about destroying their lives, but you've affected several people's lives. Like,
yeah. I destroyed it. You. So, yeah.
Well, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you contacting me and coming on, and I appreciate you doing the interview.
Hey, I hope you guys liked the interview, and if you did, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this, and leave me a comment in the comment section. And thank you for checking out the channel. See ya.